I would like to start with some simple definitions. There are three fundamental threats to networked computer systems. The most common is cybercrime. Now, much of this is what we call high volume, low impact. By that, we usually mean credit card fraud in particular, which is also known in the trade, as it were, as carding. Carding remains popular, but it's not the only form of cybercrime, as we shall see. Second, we have the threat to business. This takes two basic forms: targeted attacks against companies and corporations with the aim of extracting money either through stealth operations or some type of extortion. Then there is the second form, cyber-industrial espionage, whereby companies seek to penetrate a competitor's system in order to gain intelligence about product or strategy. We know very little about this area. It's not yet compulsory in most territories to report breaches, and companies are reluctant to do so for fear of damage to their image and their shareholders' dividends. But according to Verizon's latest cyber threat assessment, this accounts for 34% of malfeasance on the web. And then finally, we have Sector 3, cyber warfare, the threat to state security from other state and non-state actors. And one of the things that this presentation aims to do is to explain where some of the linkages between these three sectors lie. And this one is the primary one, the perpetrators, hackers. Now, although these days you can buy off-the-shelf malware and start your own criminal business with no hacking ability, at some stage, any cyber attack requires the brain of an advanced hacker. And as in my previous work on international organized crime, McMafia, the bulk of my original research for this new book, Dark Market, and what I'm going to talk about today, is based upon conversations with people involved in criminal activity. And for me, understanding their motives is a key element in combating the threats in cyber. And I think it's worth remembering at the outset that a majority of hackers are not motivated in the first instance by money. I will also offer a few suggestions throughout this talk about how to combat the real threats spreading across the internet. Let me first of all concentrate on cybercrime, because this is the most active threat. Now, just a few months ago, Ron Noble, the American who heads up Interpol, described cybercrime as, quote, one of the biggest criminal threats we have ever faced. And Ron should know, because he confessed that he has been a victim of financial fraud on the web, like about 70% of computer users. The latest estimates for annual losses in the US to cybercrime lie between $70 and $100 billion. In Britain, the Office of Cybersecurity, along with the company Detica, place a figure of £27 billion of losses here in this country. So this gives you an idea of the scale of the problem. Cybercrime comes in all shapes and sizes. Credit and debit cards represent the low-hanging fruit for the criminal hacker, and I'll come back to that later. But then there is the ability to crack bank accounts, to roam the database of a corporation following a successful phishing attack launched via spam, the pump and dump schemes whereby hacking is used to manipulate share prices, and how about scareware? This is incredibly lucrative, and I'd like you to be introduced to the dynamic Ukrainian company, Innovative Marketing. Now, most of the young Ukrainians working at the Kiev headquarters of Innovative Marketing had no idea that they were involved in a major financial fraud. They were youngsters who believed that they were involved in a vibrant startup company dealing in path-breaking software. The bosses were not actually Ukrainian. They were American and West European. And this is a very important point. Cybercrime is flourishing everywhere. Yes, it has a special place in Eastern Europe, as we shall see, but don't fool yourselves. Brits, Canadians, Germans, French, Americans, they are all involved. Now, Innovative Marketing sent out malware that would prompt your browser to trigger pop-ups, warning you that your computer was compromised by viruses. Help was at hand, however, because IM offered a range of products supposedly to combat these terrible infections. Here is one of their standards, Malware Destructor 2009. It claims to outperform the market leaders such as Kaspersky, F-Secure and Norton. And look at those awards in the right-hand corner that it's garnered. How many customers actually go on to PC Pro or CNET to check whether they have tested Malware Destructor 2009 or not? But innovative marketing didn't restrict themselves to antivirus suites. This is one of my favorites, Ecology Green PC. If you download this software, it says, it will reduce power consumption, minimize CO2 emissions, and perform at optimal eco level. All for $39.95 a year's license, or for those of you with a real conscience, $79.95 for a lifetime of eco computing. Now, to install one of these products, you had to remove any existing anti-malware protection you had. Once the new software was on your PC, however, it did precisely nothing, if you were lucky, because some of those products were also loaded with new malware, enabling a command and control computer to take over the victim's machine, which was in any event now vulnerable to all manner of viruses and Trojans zipping around the net. And of course, you were paying for the privilege. This is one of Innovative's receipts for €50. Now, amazingly, for a group of hackers, IM left a port wide open on their main server, meaning one could surf through their data at will without breaking the law. And this is what a friend of mine did, and he came across this Aladdin's cave of material and was able to work out that their revenues over a 3-year period were in excess of $500 million. Think about it. These are vast sums. Let's take a closer look at that bill. They have call centers. Yes, would you believe it? Innovative Marketing was making so much money that it established a German-language call center in Poland, a French one in Algeria, and an English-speaking call center, guess where, of course, in India.
Welcome to Customer Support Service.
Thank you for calling Customer Support. This is Mike. How can I help you?
Yes, hello. My name is Todd Marble. I called about 10 minutes ago because I had purchased your Virus Remover 2008 program, and I'm still having trouble getting it onto my PC.
Could I have your order number, sir?
Yes, I can give that to you. Are you ready?
Now, Mike, our man in Hyderabad, is asking for the order number because that will tell him which particular fake product he is pretending to assist with. The company actually recorded all its conversations and stored them on disk, and my friend found them. 20 years after he first called for help, Todd Marble is exhausted. He's been driven to distraction by the call center operator, and he doesn't even know that by now his computer is riddled with viruses.
You're not listening. You're not listening to me. I'm trying to shut my computer down because I cannot go anywhere. It's locked up on me, so I'm going to pull the plug on it and shut it down.
No, sir. No, sir. Kindly listen to me. So what I suggest to you is you please restart your computer in the safe mode with networking, sir.
To be honest with you, I am not a computer literate type of guy. I don't know how to shut it down in safe mode.
Well, in that case, what I suggest is you just contact your system vendor, sir. They might help you out with, okay?
So, cybercrime is big, big money. But let me be frank, any data collected by law enforcement, tax authorities, and private sector companies are bound to underestimate the extent of cybercrime's real value for two reasons. One, individuals and companies are often very reluctant to report they have been victims of cybercrime. And two, people often have no idea that they are victims of cybercrime. Because, of course, of the botnet, millions of users around the world are unwittingly complicit in computer crime. Their computers are infected by a virus which subordinates them to a command and control machine run by the criminal. He then uses the computing power of the so-called zombies, and a botnet may comprise as many as 100,000 or more PCs around the world, to send spam to attack rivals, to extort companies. Now, this is perhaps the most worrying aspect to all of this, the perpetrators, the people we are dealing with on the other side of the fence. They are smart, they are ingenious, they are creative, and I can tell you that on more than one level, they are people you'd really enjoy hanging out with. And they are ahead of the game. This is how they were advertising themselves on the net 10 years ago, when they founded Carder Planet, the first ever criminal website. Now, criminals came to Carder Planet for a variety of reasons. To buy and sell credit debit card data, to buy and sell skimmers to attach to ATM machines to read the card data, to buy and sell card cloning equipment, to exchange news about the latest viruses, trojans and worms out there and how effective they were, to denounce criminals who ripped off other criminals, and to denounce suspected law enforcement officers working cyber, to read and swap tutorials about committing fraud. The Turkish mega hacker Chow used carding sites like Carder Planet to advertise the sale of his skimming machines. Here he comes.
Hi, my name is Chow. I'm a developer of skimming devices. I work for you 24 hours a day and make the best devices for skimming. You'll be able to make money in this business with me and my crew. A lot of people ask me how to choose the place to work with skimmer. Choosing the place to work is one of the most important things. What are you gonna do?
Well, there are many nightclubs around. Going to the place, looking around to see what's going on. For example, we see ATM with many tourists, taking the statistics, taking the pictures of ATM and of what's around the place. Find a nightclub where young people are spending money of their parents. Try to not install in the mornings. People are vigilant at this time. Try not to work in places where 250 people a day are going through. Do not install in the districts with many illegal immigrants. So that's all about it.
Now, Chow sent his skimmers from his domestic factory in Istanbul all over the world. Charging about $7,000 a shot, he made millions from this business. So Carder Planet and its ilk were essentially criminal department stores plus an information office for the underground rolled into one. And Carder Planet also introduced an escrow system to facilitate the exchange of data for money. And this was what led to pretty much the industrialization of crime on the web. This business device enabled carders to overcome the problem of mutual mistrust, and it had a huge impact. Carder Planet gave way to a host of other carding sites, the Grifters, Shadow Crew, Mazafaka, and Dark Market, to name but a few. The first decade of the new century saw a sustained attack on banking and credit card systems around the world. Let's have a look at some of the perpetrators, very different types of criminal from those found in traditional organized criminal syndicates. We're going to concentrate on 6 of these characters. Dmitry Golubov, Script, founder of Carder Planet, born in Odessa, Ukraine in 1982. He developed his social and moral compass on the Black Sea port in the 1990s. This was a sink-or-swim environment where to prosper often meant involvement in criminal or corrupt activity. As an accomplished computer user, Dmitry simply adapted the gangster capitalism of his hometown to the World Wide Web. Dmitry is certainly no fool, but gangsterism had been the norm since his 9th birthday. He knew no other environment. Renukant Subramaniam, Jilzi, moderator on Mazafaka and co-founder of darkmarket.com, born in Colombo, Sri Lanka. As an 8-year-old, he and his parents fled the Sri Lankan capital as Sinhalese mobs roamed the city looking for Tamils like Renu to murder. He was interrogated by the military as a potential terrorist, so his parents sent him as a refugee seeking political asylum in Britain. As a 13-year-old with no English and being bullied at school, he escaped into a world of computers. Here he was able to demonstrate his great technical skills, but lonely and lacking in confidence, he was easily led astray by his newfound friends online. Convicted last year of credit card and mortgage fraud, he will be in Wormwood Scrubs for another year. Matrix, a moderator on IACA, the International Association for the Advancement of Criminal Activity, and administrator of Dark Market, born in southern Germany into a stable and well-respected middle-class family. His obsession with games in his early teens led him to hacking, finding large servers to store the games he had cracked and pirated. His slide into criminality was incremental, and by the time he started to question his activity, he was in far too deep. Max Butler, aka Iceman, mastermind of Carter's Market, born in Meridian, Idaho. Butler was one of the best penetration testers working with companies and corporations from Santa Clara, California, and working voluntarily with the FBI. In the late 1990s, Butler identified a major vulnerability affecting all US government networks, including those at nuclear research facilities. He patched these, preventing a major security embarrassment for the US, but he left an opening which he could use, resulting in his conviction. At his open prison, he came under the influence of financial fraudsters who then persuaded him to work for them on his release. As Iceman, he was regarded as one of the most brilliant hackers ever to come under law enforcement scrutiny, but he was caught, and this man with a planetary-sized brain is now serving a 13-year sentence. Adewale Taiwo, aka Freddie Bibi, master bank account cracker born in Abuja, Nigeria, set up his news group, prosaically entitled bankfrauds@yahoo.co.uk, before entering the UK in 2005 to take a master's in chemical engineering at Manchester University. Impressed in the private sector as a specialist in the creation of chemical applications for the oil industry, he simultaneously ran a worldwide bank and credit card fraud network that was worth millions until his arrest in 2008. He was deported last month from Lindholm Prison in Doncaster to Nigeria. And Çağatay Evyapan, aka Chow, administrator of Dark Market from Istanbul. Arrested in October 2008, little is known about Chow's origins except that he was imprisoned in 2000 for cloning credit cards and that he absconded in 2005. Chow's skimming operations were backed by the most sophisticated virtual private network security arrangement yet encountered by police among global cyber criminals. They are all from very different social and economic circumstances, but they all share the following characteristics. They were obsessive game players. They all demonstrated unusually advanced ability in maths and or the sciences. They all developed hacking skills while in their early to mid-teens. It must be remembered that at this age, the moral compass of these young men has not yet been fully formed, meaning that they are easy prey to cyber demagogues or criminals. Three of the hackers, Jilzy, Matrix, and Iceman, were not motivated primarily by money. And finally, their personal and communication skills in the real world were weak at best, script and Chow aside. I am fairly convinced that were it not for the internet, Jilzy, Matrix, and Iceman would never have been involved in conventional crime. Let's go back to Carter Planet for a minute. Here is the press release from Carter Planet detailing events at the first worldwide Carter's Conference organized by the Planet, which took place in Odessa from the 31st of May to June the 2nd, 2002. The weather, the spokesman tells us, was very pleasant, and Carters arrived from North and South America, Europe, the former Soviet Union, and the Persian Gulf. The organizers regretted that invitees from Australia and Southeast Asia were unable to make it due to travel issues. And let me explain why I seek to highlight this particular clause, which was the first thing they wrote about in their press release. Once again, the critical use of the inadmissibility of any action in relation to the billing system, banks, or any other financial institution in the Commonwealth of Independent States, especially Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, was raised. Furthermore, the family, that's the leadership of Carter Planet, will deal ruthlessly with any Carter found engaging in such activity. Some leading planetarians knew that among the uninvited guests at the first worldwide Carter's conference were the intelligence services of Ukraine, the SBU, and Russia, the former KGB. This is because Carter Planet, just like today's cybercriminal networks, had their own counterintelligence capacity. Police Dog, a young hacker from Belarus, now in prison, has written that everyone understood on both sides that if Russian and Ukrainian Carders only went after American and West European targets, they would be left unmolested by Moscow and Kiev. This is why groups like the Russian Business Network was able to provide its bulletproof hosting services for so long. The Russian government is reluctant to move against operations like this, and US and British law enforcement will privately agree that trying to work with them is hard. Of course, when Russia needs to mobilize a hacking capability, were it purely theoretically to launch a massive distributed denial of service attack on one of its neighbors, its government knows exactly who it could call on. Don't think, however, that this is all one way. Russia, China, and other countries know that the United States' cyber capacity, and combined with its allies in Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, its cyber intelligence reach outdoes anything else in the world. Furthermore, US agencies have swift and privileged access to the databases of companies like Google and Facebook, the two biggest depositories of personal data in the world. So when you ask Russian officials about their Carders, they will ask you in return about America's corporate reach and its control of data on the web. We are investing phenomenal resources, especially in the US, into cyber defense and cybersecurity. Tens of billions of tax dollars have been earmarked for the newly operational US Cybercom, cyber having been designated, of course, last year by Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, the fifth domain of military operations, along with land, sea, air, and space, and of course, the first man-made domain. Billions, too, are going into cyber law enforcement units, be it the FBI, the Secret Service, as always deeply engaged in interagency squabbling over turf and money, or the serious organised crime agency, the Met, and the City of London Police. Now, they can investigate, but they can't protect. And in particular, they can't protect the private sector. So while cybercrime fighters are dealing with activists on sites like Carter Planet, the corporate sector has to look out for its own. After all, failure to do so is very, very costly indeed. All of these companies, including one government department and one country, have been major victims of internet-related crime. Just this week, Sony announced that it will suffer an extra $170 million loss on its bottom line this year because of a spectacular hack on PlayStation. And every day this week there have been new revelations about Sony's vulnerability. This does not account for the losses suffered by individual companies. It's no longer an exaggeration to say that the extreme outcome of a company going under as a result of a cyber attack is a real possibility. Security doesn't stop with the private sector. America's most powerful cybersecurity institution is the National Security Agency. As the power of this agency expands, it must be remembered that if you want the public on side, it is not unproblematic. And there are real issues here to do with individual liberties and personal privacies. The reason I highlighted the hackers earlier is that we are missing a trick by not diverting resources into understanding their psychosocial profile. Instead, we put all our money on the whole into technical solutions. Along with the intelligence agencies, this is the group which migrates between the worlds of cybercrime, cyber-industrial espionage, and cyber warfare. At the moment, we are not engaging in serious research security agency. As the power of this agency expands, it must be remembered that if you want the public on side, it is not unproblematic, and there are real issues here to do with individual liberties and personal privacies. The reason I highlighted the hackers earlier is that we are missing a trick by not diverting resources into understanding their psychosocial profile. Instead, we put all our money on the whole into technical solutions. Along with the intelligence agencies, this is the group which migrates between the worlds of cybercrime, cyber-industrial espionage, and cyber warfare. At the moment, we are not engaging in serious research into these people, but I'm convinced that we will save ourselves a lot of money by identifying hackers before they become a problem, i.e., while they are still at school. And right now, the demand for smart professionals in the IT security sector far outstrips supply. If we are to meet the challenges in cyber, then we are going to need help from the people who know the threats best. That is the hackers. That's what the Russians do, it's what the Chinese do, and it's what the Israelis do. On the plus side, governments are now aware that cybersecurity is a major infrastructural issue. Before long, there is very little we'll be able to do without the mediation of the internet. And given that reality, a government which ignores the issue of security is failing categorically in its duty. Cybersecurity cannot exist without close cooperation between the public and private sectors, above all between the burgeoning security industry, law enforcement, and the military. Now, I want to end this by talking briefly about Stuxnet. If anybody thought that cyber threats are a joke after Stuxnet, they have to change their mind, I'm afraid. Mikko Hipponen, Chief Research Officer of F-Secure, one of the world's most respected IT security firms, called it the most important development in cyber over the last decade. Of course, Stuxnet is the very kind of virus that creates our images of destruction and Cybergeddon, bringing down electric grids, power stations, water utilities, and a whole lot more. But what Stuxnet really tells us is it's very clear now that states around the world are investing considerable resources in developing some very deadly cyber weapons. And yet, while Stux may be a game changer, as the researchers James Farwell and Rafał Rochazinski have pointed out, broken down, the virus was cobbled together from existing viruses that were common products from the criminal underworld. So we need to focus on understanding how the triple threats of cybercrime, cyber-industrial espionage, and cyber warfare are linked, not just digitally, but politically and socially. And we need to educate people so that they realize how these issues affect all of us. Because at the moment, one of the biggest problems about cybersecurity is that those people who understand it are on the whole not terribly good communicators. And the ordinary public, who are one of the central vulnerabilities of network computer systems, simply do not know what is being talked about. And we need to do all of this without turning our societies into police states. Nonetheless, I believe that with the right attitude, sufficient vigilance, and hard work, cyber threats are manageable. If, however, we fail on any of those three counts, we could soon find ourselves in a very bad place indeed. So let's all pull together and make sure we avoid it. Thank you very much.